looking through some old camcorder footage recently, I found a rather interesting little movement on the Isle of Man steam railway. Now, my father and I have holidayed on the island occasionally since 1993. We're both big fans of the line, and one morning in 2007 we came down to see the trains being prepared at Douglas. I was quite surprised to see Fenella shunting coaches around the Douglas yard. Now, normally the sets are pretty much paid up and ready to go, so they don't need to do very much to them unless they want to make the train longer. You can see Fenella here passing the signal box. The signal box was never originally there. It was about 40 feet further backwards where the bus station is. When the bus station was built on what was the carriage sheds, the signal box was moved, hauled by a steamroller to its current location. We find out why they needed a longer train once we get to Santon Station. This is partway along the Douglas to Port Erin line, the only line left of the Manx Steam Railway on the island. Sadly, the Douglas to Peel and Peel to Ramsey lines are long since gone. Anyway, what we find is a rare double-headed Manx Steam Railway train running in to the station. Now, normally Manx trains, when they were particularly heavy, would have a loco attached to the back. Double heading is actually quite rare. Needless to say, as soon as we see a double-headed train, we jump on it, waving our Manx travel passes that are an absolute bargain and well worth it if you travel to the island. And of course, the carriage windows go down, and although you're not supposed to, you poke your head out of the side just to see if you can see any of the steam engines as we're travelling along through the beautiful Manx countryside. As you can see, it's a single track line with some decent curves. Not quite curvy enough, unfortunately, for me to get a decent shot of the locos this close to them. Pulling out from Port Soderick Station, you can certainly hear them working on the long train. Long trains aren't actually unusual on the Isle of Man. 10 and 12 coach trains weren't unknown, especially on Tynwald Day when the railway was at its height, and pretty much all the population had to move to St John's for the annual one-day parliament. On the front of the train we have Loch number 4 from 1874 and Fenella number 8 from 1894. And here we are, we've arrived at Douglas Station. I've run along the platform to see the two locomotives being uncoupled and put away in the sheds that we saw earlier as Fenella was shunting the coaches. There's a handy head shunt here, which is great, down at the station. It's actually the second station on site, and you can't quite see it in those shots. Those are actually the toilets and various other offices going on there. But the head shunt is very handy because you can get a good look at the loco and people queue up to have their photo taken with the driver and all that sort of thing. Here we are now pulling out and running around. That's Loch away, and now time for Fenella to run around. Later on in the day, Fenella shunted the coaching stock again to reduce the train to a slightly more normal length. These are both middle-size peacocks. There are smaller peacocks, numbers 1 to 3, none of whom are actually running at the moment, but these are the more useful size for the railway because of the level of traffic it's got. Some of the trains are still quite heavy. So there we have it, a couple of beautiful little Peacock locomotives on the beautiful Isle of Man, hauling a rather unusual train.